Ian McKelvey.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. So I, like my fellow MPs, my National Party MPs, rise to oppose this bill, but I'll have some slightly different reasons for doing so. I want to firstly congratulate the member on getting a bill drawn out of the ballot. I haven't been here, in fact I've been here for over 30 years shorter time than him, but I haven't had one drawn out of the ballot yet. But anyway, that's beside the point. I have some suspicion as to why he would want to design a bill like this, because I'm old enough to remember the days of the Land Court when you had to register every purchase made in New Zealand. You then had to get it through the Land Court, and I'd have to say it created or caused the creation of a myriad of trusts, companies and other various devious methods of obscuring land ownership or the people who owned land from the title of that land. And of course the member who drew this bill, I think he's trained as a lawyer. And my memory of the Land Court days and of death duties and those sort of things where they were just loved by the lawyers, it was a field day for them. So I guess one of the reasons that I don't support this bill is that I think it's some of the objectives of it are fine. I think it's hugely complicated, will be very expensive to operate on the face of it, and I've got and I'm sure the member has no proof of that either, but I'm sure it will be administratively very difficult to manage. That's the first reason I'm opposed to the bill. The second reason is that and I think the previous speaker's reasons for him thinking this was a great idea is very different than the member who in fact designed the bill. I don't think this bill is intended to ban overseas buyers from New Zealand at all. It's designed to give information around the number of overseas investors or overseas people who are buying land in New Zealand. And the previous speaker also alluded to the legislation or policy in place in Australia and the UK and various other countries around the world. It hasn't had any positive effect on house values or any other values in those countries either. So that was a spurious argument. So from the point of view of lowering cost to our people trying to get into housing markets or into farming or wherever else, in fact it doesn't achieve that. So his argument around that point was, in my view, quite inaccurate. So, Mr Speaker, we already have in New Zealand a tax regime that discourages people from short-term trading in any type of property. It in effect is, I suppose, a short-term capital gain. That's been in place for some time. It's been reinforced in the last 12 months. And so we have a tax regime that gives us the ability to temper people's opportunity to trade property in a manner purely for capital gain in the short term. So, well, when you're my age and your age, 2 years is a long time. We need every bit of time we can get. We might not be round in 2 years' time. So, Mr Speaker, I think that whilst I can understand the sentiment behind some of this type of activity, I certainly don't think from New Zealand's perspective we should be looking at banning or even making it more difficult for foreign people or people who are coming to New Zealand to invest in the New Zealand market. I do think we need to collect data, and I think Land Information New Zealand are doing a very good job, a much better job there was some significant questioning of that in the last week or two around a lot of the stuff that goes on with respect to land ownership, property ownership in New Zealand. They're also doing a very good job with respect to the Overseas Investment Office, and that they have increased the resource going into that area and the amount of effort going into that significantly in the last 12 months. And I think that last week they appeared before the Select Committee, and I thought we got certainly a massive improvement in the accountability in the way they were performing, and that was primarily because they were stretched for resource. That's been resolved, and so we're getting a much better result in that respect. So, Mr Speaker, I am speaking against this bill. I think that there's some points in it that are worth picking up on in the future, and I'm sure future governments will pick up on some of those. But I do warn, in the course of that, I do warn against this very complicated type of legislation because it leads to all sorts of opportunity for people to find alternative ways of owning land, registering land, transfers and all sorts of things. And I think the simpler we keep our structure, the better off we are. Thank you, Mr Speaker.